Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm Daniel Mora. I work with Nick and Mike and Amanda, and now Austin, who's come and joined the managed group. And so I'm going to be going over some of the stuff that I've been doing within compliance and now access, and then Nick will follow up with the stuff that he's been doing with analytics. Let's see. So in context, so I switched over to Access. So I don't really have much going on over there because I'm still trying to understand some of the problem space and some of the issues in regards to Access. Compliance has been iterating and building features. So we've got a lot of stuff that I'm going to be showing, and it's been quite exciting, and I'm excited to see Austin take over and see where it goes from there. So the first one that we were doing was a feature where we needed to make sure that a project, when it was officially deleted, was actually deleted and not just sitting in limbo. There's been a large request for this feature to, whenever you currently delete something in the system, it'll sit there for a time before it decays. And that causes problems with compliance because the data is still accessible and you can still view the projects and contents. So having this feature of deleting something instantaneously was a feature that we needed. The next item here is two-person approvals for settings and changes. So if you were to make a change in the settings in a project, currently there's no way to track that. So what we wanted to do is have a way to inventory and audit that data, especially again in regards to compliance. If there's a setting change, it needs to be validated by a second approval. So we have a feature where we want to have a approve or deny option and then have that, that data stored in an archive so that if there is an audit request for any changes made into the project settings, that can be exported and then transmitted to the relevant audit authority. We have another issue where SSH and PAT expirations, tokens have expirations. The problem before is we didn't have a way to track this data. And if we're looking to see when a user or a token or an SSH key has validity or access to a project or a group, there needs to be a way to track that and to see when that time frame is going to lapse. That will allow us to renew the license or renew the key if needed, or understand why it was removed. So in this case, sometimes tokens are revoked if there's a security concern, or it just expired because somebody forgot about it. So we want to be able to track that inventory and see that things aren't going stale in our projects and making sure that there's no sketchy access being had. So another one is allowing MRs to poll an external service. So this is something where we want to allow a organization to export or send a MR check out to an auditing body or an auditing source within their own organization or through APIs that they have in-house, which would allow a organization to do a check or audit on the MR that's being passed to them. This would allow them to basically validate or have another check off in their compliance organization. Next, there's the approval status and pipelines warning. This is taking pieces from the merge request window and bringing it into the compliance dashboard that we're building. So currently it's easier to see things in this particular view because auditors, this is the new profile or the new persona that we're making, auditors don't necessarily need to see all the data associated to the entire merge request list as well. That doesn't necessarily provide anything specific to compliance. So for example, if MR fails a compliance check through the approval status, there would not necessarily be a notification without the previous issue that we just proposed. And so that would show here quickly that this MR has passed or failed, depending on the status of that check through the external APIs. So another issue here that we have is to allow admins to scope how the MR approvals are done. And this is part of the feature that we're expanding on in regards to compliance frameworks. We have a number of frameworks that we're trying to work with and to allow certain projects to be enforced on a compliance depending on which framework is needed. is quite helpful. So this would allow us to only focus specific merge requests to say, I only want HIPAAs for this particular project, as well as I only want to allow the author or only allow committers to make the approval. So a number of changes to flexibility which didn't exist before this feature. And again, all these features are coming through previous research and interviews that we've done with clients. A lot of this stuff has been tested and is getting quite positive reviews. So that's always good to hear. Now in Access, there is, for me, a bit of a learning curve. So I'm trying to come into the project as I just started. The primary concern that they're having right now is regarding permissions inheritance. And this is related to some work that Gabe has been doing in regards to organizational constructs. So why things don't necessarily work between groups or projects. Why is there segmentation between these? How things receive inheritance for your security or your access whenever you've attached yourself to a group or you've been added to a group. And when you get plugged into a project, how that security is then passed on to anything underneath that organization. There's a case study that's been done with an organization that we've been doing business with. It's an internal issue, so you won't be able to see it if you're not a GitLab employee. So in the future, we're looking to try and make this a little bit easier, but that is quite a monumental task. It does involve, again, like I said, reorganizing some of the structure and the information architecture. And so it probably won't be something that'll come out anytime soon, but we are working forward on that. So the next steps, again, I'm working with Austin to try and get him onboarded for the compliance work that we're doing. So he'll basically see what we've done so far and how to pick up the torch and move forward. And then the compliance's focus is going to shift towards continuing the dashboard, but expanding the scope of it and refining some of the functions and features. There's a lot more features that we need to put into the dashboard to make it a total package, so to speak. But everything is iterative and we're going along piece by piece. And in regards to access, for me, it's going to be building research initiatives to understand and get a better scope of the problem within the issue of inheritance. And I will stop my presentation because it is Nick's turn.
And swap over seamlessly. That's how we do it in Manage. Okay, so my name's Nick Post. I work in Manage Analytics, and I just wanted to do a little whistle-stop tour of some of the stuff that I've been working on. I've been asked a number of times, like, what is analytics and why is it different from Monitor, all this sort of stuff. So I wanted to do like a little differentiation on how I think about what analytics does, or our purpose as a stage group. Number one is we're focusing on value stream management, which is a big thing where we're effectively mapping the entirety of the software developer lifecycle from the start of creating an issue all the way through to implementation and having some sort of value in front of the customer. So that requires a level of visualization and understanding to see whether you can unblock stuff which is going through your value stream, and get insights into whether you're improving, all that sort of stuff. So one element of that is that, as I just mentioned, visualizing this, but another element of this is actually taking the insights that we get from these value stream calculations and bringing them into everyday workflows. So for example, what is the average time that it takes for an issue to close? Can we embed that within the issue workflow? So as you're working actually within an issue, you know that this is 25% taking longer than the normal issue within this group. So one is visualizing the stuff, and then another side is actually taking those and embedding those insights within the workflows to make them a little bit more actionable as well. So that is the category of value stream management. Now, Manage Analytics, we're also helping to create a general capability of data visualization and analytics across the product that all stage teams and users eventually can use. So when we create components and objects, such as reports and dashboards that I've talked about previously, we're hoping that this model can be used and adopted by the from other teams to not only speed up sort of your stage group's workflow, but also improve consistency across the product as well. And then eventually these models or objects or workflows that we have will be provided to customers as well. So they'll be able to create their own reports and dashboards and all this lovely stuff themselves for particular data sets that they're specifically interested in, meaning that it becomes much more relevant, the data that they're getting. Yeah, so value stream management and general data visualization, good stuff. So a few things I'm working on within value stream management. One is I'm doing solution validation at the moment. I've spoken with a few users around to-do lists and notifications. And the rationale behind working on the solution validation between to-do lists and notifications is because it's impacting how quickly individuals within a value stream can improve their workflow, and using that as a value driver for improving cycle time, which is the key metric that you want to improve within value stream analytics. So I'm doing some solution validation and testing some ideas for how we can improve to-do lists, notifications, and some analytics and metrics that go along with that. I'm also doing some general feature work around improving what we have with value stream management at the moment, which is not much, but giving users the capability of creating multiple value streams within a single group. They're only allowed to do one at a time at the moment. And then also improving different experiences to configure what they see around this tasks by type chart, doing a label selection experience. What else am I working on? So around the general data viz UX side of things, what we're focusing on at the moment is the report object. I've done a bunch of documentation around the report object at the moment. And what the report object is effectively when you drill down from a metric or a chart into the granular data set, a report is basically the place where you end up, and that holds the granular data set in some way. So we have started to build these pages out in a sort of generic way, starting with insights and also group activity as the first sort of applications of the product. Started documenting that, and then the typical iteration path we're sort of hypothesizing will be create the drill down experience, allow charts to be embedded within the handbook, and then allow charts within the handbook to drill down into particular data in pages, and then start to create a library of these report pages. So the report object itself is providing sort of some guidance and overview into what components we're focusing our efforts on at the moment. That's why you'll see I'm working a lot on different charts and improving the functionality of charts and all this other stuff here. So finally, just to summarize, Manage Analytics works on value stream management, which is the category, and then general data viz UX, which is what I'd call a capability. Our next area of focus is, alongside reports, also working on dashboards as an object, which is something that's going to be coming up for a number of different stage groups, such as CI/CD ops. So let me know if you plan on using a report object or a dashboard anytime soon, and maybe we could collaborate on that. And let me know if your stage group could benefit from any sort of value stream metrics or calculations in the context of your workflows as well. I'm super open to collaborating. Give me a shout. And I wanted to also chuck out a special thank you to Tori, Jeremy Elder, and Hyana for guiding me through the process of contributing to Pajamas on all this chart stuff. So with that, I thank everyone, and we'll call it time.